Hey everyone, welcome back to Hero Wars Guide. I'm going to talk today about the Foundations of Power event that's going live in a few hours here tonight on Hero Wars Web. Starting off here with the new splash image that pops up when you come to the game. I think they did a pretty nice job with this one. Definitely like this better than the weird Silva with lipstick thing that's in the Discord for the event. But anyway, getting into things. First, we have the task list here, a few of the standard mainstays and a few new ones as well. Log into 3, VIP 7, buy and spend emeralds at 80,000 and 100,000, energy up to 15,000, which is pretty high for a 3-day event. But then more unique here, we have summoning spheres at 50 and collecting Titanite up to 1,000, which is a little bit above probably the average day, especially for people who don't have Valkyrie's favor. But that's an interesting quest. I kind of like seeing that thrown in there. And then we've got Outland Chests at 150, also a very high ask. The reward coming out of almost every single one of these tasks is the Titan Skin Stones, which is great. There have been a lot of people calling for other ways to get that, as they're one of the more rare resource types in the game. So I'm pretty excited to see that. The emerald values are kind of middle of the road. There are definitely events that give higher rewards for emeralds, energy, and outland, given how many of these things that you need to open. They're not the worst either, and some of the middle ranking milestones on things like the Outland chests are pretty good. So let's take a look at those details. Alright, first, how's this stacking up to some of the other events? The first 3 bars on the left are some of the main repeating high quality events, and then I threw in purple as an example of some of the less quality events that they've been throwing at us lately, and finally Foundations of Power out on the right. So you can see it's well below some of the better events for Outlands, and worse for spending emeralds as well, though not as bad as some. And then spending energy is kind of, maybe even a little bit above average, although the demand is quite high, 15,000 for just a 3-day event. A quick word on the buying emeralds task. If you combine this with a 3 times emerald purchase, you get very slightly better results than 4x. But you would have to make sure that your bundles line up exactly to the amount that they're paying out. So it's unlikely that you're going to get that to happen. I'd say, continue to hold out for a 4x emerald sale. Okay, the spend emeralds task itself here, the ask goes up to 100,000. Payout here is pretty high. This is a big chunk of the total possible reward out of the event. And as you can see, the reward per spend that you have to do goes up pretty drastically as you get towards the higher end of this event, which is usually but not always the case. So if you really want to get good return out of this, you have to go pretty far into the event. So a lot of cases here, I bring up the point that you don't want to spend 25,000, for example, on each of 4 different events. You pick the ones that give you the type of resource and the amount that's the best, and go harder on those specific events. Okay, moving into spending energy, you can see here that the amount required goes up to 15,000, and then the emerald value of the Titan Skin Stones listed next to that. The ROI stays pretty static throughout. It's not like a huge spike in the middle or in the end. So it's really, I think, a question of just how much you decide to go into this. Just make sure you end up just over one of the milestones rather than just under. You wouldn't want to get to 11,500, for example. I'd say just stop opening your bottles when you get to 9,000 exactly in that case. So if you want to hit some of these higher milestones, you will have to not only buy all of the emerald purchases, but open up some of the bottles. So my recommendation would be wait on the bottles until the very end of the event so that you do know where you would naturally end up from your emerald purchases. All right, taking a quick look at the Outland task. This one is going up to 150, so it's a pretty big ask. And if you look at what you get out of it, it's definitely not as good as a lot of other events out there. But this one is interesting in that you do see a giant dip down in the ROI that you're going to get at some of these milestones relative to each other. So I would recommend that you take a look at the how-to list here and see what you have to do to get to each one of these milestones. Make a plan for what you're going to do and stick to that. And probably don't pick something here in the middle. You don't want to open up 100 or 125 of these chests, in my opinion, unless you're going to go all the way to 150. The payout just isn't really there until you get to the very, very end. I did also want to spend a second here looking at what this breakdown looks like for people who are able to get a 4th day out of the Outland. Obviously, then the amount that you can open total for a given emerald amount changes the whole way through. So if you do have the 4th day, this how-to column is an outline of your plan to get to each one of the milestones at the end of the event. I should note for all of these that the last level of Outland I'm calling 4,500 because personally I never open any of them individually for the 500 amount, just because they give you that freebie at the end. If you were to do that, then maybe you'll get to one of these milestones a little bit more economically, but then you're also losing out on that 10th one's free or whatever it is. So with these amounts of emerald value being relatively small for each milestone, I don't really think it's likely that you're going to get a big payout there. All right, that's everything I had. Thanks guys for tuning in. Hope this helps.